to be in Olympia
with KGY.
We should start like a karaoke band.
We seriously should.
I'm telling you, it could be awesome. With that, let's welcome to the phone line Tyler Huey from the Nisqually Valley News. Afternoon, sir.
How's it going?
Hi, Tyler.
Hello.
Okay. Big sports controversy over the weekend. Question of the day, facebook.com/AM1240KGY, or drop us an email, studio@kgyradio.com. The question is, are NFL bounties an ethically okay practice? What are you thinking on this, Tyler?
Well, let's just get back to the crux of the argument. So on Friday, this is basically what happened. After reviewing about 50,000 pages of documents, an NFL report says that between 22 and 27 defensive players on the New Orleans Saints, as well as their former assistant coach, maintain a bounty program for inflicting injuries on targeted opposing players during the past 3 seasons.
Oi.
Wow.
So that's pretty messed up. Greg Williams, the then defensive coordinator, is at the center of the report. He actually met with NFL security officials today for another round of dialogue pertaining to these alleged violations. Now, Williams, he got hired recently as the defensive coordinator for the St. Louis Rams. So the past 3 seasons, the reason he got called to NFL is because he recently apologized and admitted to overseeing the bounty program the last 3 seasons. And I don't know if you heard this, Brad, but this included a pool that reached as high as $50,000.
Mm-hmm.
Payouts were made for inflicting game-ending injuries on targeted players. For instance, a knockout was supposed to be awarded a defender $1,500, and a card-off was supposed to be worth about $1,000.
Oi. Yeah, and I'm sure, the higher profile player, the more that money's going to go toward an injury. It's really sad news. It's really sad news, I think.
Yeah, so, I mean, I think this is very bad news for the Saints. I think the penalties are going to far surpass the New England Patriots' Spygate case in 2007.
Oh, that's right.
Back then, the Patriots suffered $750,000 in fines and lost a first-round draft pick for taping other teams' practices. Now, since the Saints don't have a first-rounder in this year's draft, which is April 28th is when the first round starts, I believe it's going to be bad. I think a second-rounder and potentially a first-rounder, let me rephrase that, since they don't have that first-round pick this year, I think a second or a third-rounder could take it away this year, and I think a first-rounder could get taken away in 2013 and possibly 2014 as well. And to top it off, I wouldn't be surprised if Greg Williams got suspended for a year.
I wouldn't be surprised if he got fired. I mean, seriously, they're tracing this back and whatnot, and there were traces of this in 2006, actually, when he was the coordinator for the Washington Redskins. So a history of dirty play kind of goes back with this Greg Williams guy.
Yeah, I mean, this whole bounty thing, you mentioned 2006. In 2010, the league warned the Saints that they're pretty sure this is going on and they need to stop it, and they clearly ignored him. They weren't scared or swayed away, and they just were arrogant, and they kept doing it.
This is true. I know Brittany's like steaming at you got. I know you're like working up to say something.
No, I mean, it's like, look, I'm not naive, and I'm sure other teams out there have something similar to this going on.
Yeah.
But especially if you're the team that's singled out to, knock it off, and you don't, especially knowing how ever since Goodell has been around for the past few years, and one of his main things he's about is player safety.
Right.
Trying to knock down the concussions and all that.
Right, exactly. He's been on a major campaign for concussions.
Yeah, he said, stop doing it, so you better listen, and they didn't, so he's going to kill them.
Well, and aside from that, Goodell's put other safety issues in place, like, not roughing the quarterback so much, or I guess, you could argue in a way making the game a little bit lighter, but really they're safety issues.
Yeah,
now,
I mean, I think everything that happens to the Saints is going to be warranted.
Yeah, I can agree with that. And it's funny, the question is, are NFL bounties an ethically okay practice? I think to an extent, I know we argued about this earlier.
Yeah.
But I think to an extent they are okay if you're rewarding good behavior. Because, there were these bounties for taking out players or taking out star players and things like that. But there were also bounties for interceptions. There were bounties for sacks. There were bounties for other defensive statistics. And I think within that, I think that's okay. I mean, we reward kids for good grades, right? If you get an A, then this is just rewarding good behavior. But I think
Brad, it's an arguable topic, but an argument you'll lose.
Ooh.
I don't think there should be a bounty. I don't think there should be anything like that for anything. especially if you're a pro, you're already probably making hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars a year. Do you really need to get an extra $5,000 for getting a sack or a
That's any job.
interception?
That's any job, though. Any job you go to is going to pay you a base salary. Should you not be rewarded after that?
Okay, well that's
Christmas
why
bonuses?
players well, that's
Right?
why players sign contracts. If they get, I don't know, 300 plus carries or a certain amount of touchdowns, they get rewarded.
Right.
But-
So is that wrong too under your argument then?
Well, I think that's okay if you already signed into a contract like that, but
But why? That's
But
not-
it's kind of the same thing, isn't
that's
it?
outside of the contract. That wasn't part of it. That was an incentive to do well.
okay, let's go back. Maybe I overreacted. If you're
Ooh.
simply replying, okay, let me just get this straight. Your point is strictly going to good things. It's not going to injure people.
Right,
I
right.
suppose that's a little more okay.
That's my whole argument. I mean, aside from taking people out of games, if you're being rewarded for good behavior, I think that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. People get bonuses in their job sets all the time.
Okay, I'll back off a little bit. I agree with that.
I'm gonna have to go with Brad. When we were talking about this earlier, you know, a bounty to an extent, if you're getting the right amount of plays or this or whatever. I'm not a football person,
Well,
so
sure.
I don't know the real technology.
The right stats.
Right,
Sure.
so you're getting these stats. I don't see why you shouldn't be rewarded, especially, like, say, if your team is doing worse. It's like in high school when your coach is like, if we win this game by 10 points, we're all getting ice cream.
Sure,
You don't
exactly.
sign into a contract that says every game we're going to get ice cream. Like, you know, you
Well,
don't
perhaps
do that.
You should.
Yeah, exactly.
Perhaps we should, and maybe that will be something that we all consider now.
Yeah.
We will know to talk about it. But I am with you in the fact that I think that if you are being paid to injure another
That's wrong.
player, that is wrong. And really, you're just slapping your own team in the face because you're saying you're not good enough to make it further without injuring somebody from the other team.
No, I disagree with that. When it comes down to a big game, it doesn't matter how you win. It's that you win, because 10, 15 years down the road, they're not going to look back at the books and go, well, they were missing this player, or they're missing that player. A team is a team, and a loss is a loss. So, yeah, when you know what I mean?
I do understand that, but I think that we just get so far off of what the real thing is, and we need to get back to the basis and the basics.
Get back to playing the game.
And play the game and win because you are good at what you do. I mean, you get paid to be a football player. Mm-hmm. How hard is that? I mean, it's probably hard because I couldn't do it. But in a sense, I mean, you're getting paid to do what you love, and
Yeah.
that is to play football. So why do you need to injure somebody? Because you're getting paid to do something that you're good at.
I agree, but that's also part of the game of the NFL, is that you go after players, not necessarily to hurt them,
But
but
you don't need to hurt them.
no, not on purpose, but you do get hurt. That's part of the game.
If
Well,
it is
yeah,
a clear accident, then that's what it is, and those happens. But some accidents are not accidents.
True.
Well, injuries happen. You should never, of course, want that to happen. But if you're
Right.
offering up to $50,000 apparently to knock a quarterback out of the game,
Yeah.
I mean, just think back to the 2009 playoff game with the Saints and the Vikings, and
Yeah.
Brett Favre just got annihilated in that game.
This is true. This is true, and there could have been bounties for that. And it
Well,
was a
I
playoff
guarantee
game.
there were.
I agree with that too. And you know, Brett Favre was actually on ESPN earlier this morning talking about that whole thing, and he feels after this story came out that yeah, he was targeted. I'm sure he was.
I mean, I
Yeah,
totally
man.
understand why you would do it. I get it. We all want that, like, sure thing, surefire, we're going to win, because if you don't have that surefire, there's always a chance that the other team is going to win. So I understand where they're coming from, but it's so unethical, and I mean, you don't need to do it. You don't need to injure somebody else to
That's-
make it.
oh,
If you're
exactly.
good, you're good, and you'll win.
Unless you're Tom Brady this year in the Super Bowl. It's awesome.
I guess so, but
But it does.
Brad, what do you think? What do you
Oh.
think the punishment will be?
I think it's going to be severe. I mean, they're going to lose draft picks. They're going to lose a lot. And I don't think it was worth it. If they would have played the game cleanly and done those things that they needed to do to win in the first place, maybe they wouldn't have to injure people to win. So I think they get what they get. Sean Payton, though, here's an interesting thing. A lot of people earlier this afternoon are calling for Sean Payton's job because they say he knew about it. Maybe he didn't instigate it, but he at least knew about it and did nothing. I don't know.
Yeah, he knew about it.
I wonder if it'll be like that Penn State sex scandal that happened where people were getting fired because they knew but didn't say or said, but nobody further went on.
Well, I'm glad you bring that up because here's the other thing. They're saying Sean Payton should go, Sean Payton this and that. It is kind of similar to what happened to Joe Paterno because ownership came out earlier this afternoon, too, and said Sean Payton and their offensive coordinator are fine. Their jobs are secure. They're safe.
Really?
But early in the Penn State scandal, they said Joe Paterno's job was safe, and they said other people would be safe, that they stand behind their people. If public pressure mounts, I think we could see Sean Payton fired. It's possible. He knew about it.
Yeah, if you know about something that's wrong, you should say something.
Yeah, exactly.
It is the ethical way. It is what we should be doing, but we live in a corrupt America.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not always, but I'm just saying there are some corrupt instances.
Sometimes.
We've seen a few.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
On the bright side in this whole discussion right there, when you guys were going back and forth, I had about 30 or so seconds to get off this annoying sticker that was on my laptop.
Really? You had a sticker on your laptop that was bothering you, huh?
Yeah, it was partially picked off, and there were some remnants left behind, so during that time, I just picked it off.
Wow, that's
Thank you.
multitasking. You're an amazing person. That is awesome.
Did you have a bounty out for it?
Oh, bounty on the sticker.
Not yet.
But, going back to your argument about Greg Williams, I think that part of it's fascinating. I mean, here's a guy who institutes that kind of culture, puts those things into practice, and they're saying that he might be safe with his job. Like, seriously, you went after players. You went after their health and well-being. That seems a little odd.
He's not going to get banned by the league forever by any means. And as I said before, if he got suspended for a year, I would not be surprised whatsoever.
He should be.
Clearly, he has a history of violence.
He should be back. That was an interesting movie. No, it's interesting, though, that Greg Williams would continue in his job because we look at other sports. Pete Rose was banned from baseball for life, for gambling. But Greg Williams goes after players' health and well-being, and he's allowed to keep his job? How is that possible?
It shouldn't be.
It shouldn't be.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. I mean, to go back on a Pete Rose rant, I could do that for hours.
Let's not.
Yeah, let's not. Okay.
Well, that's exactly why I think this is much worse than Spygate because, Spygate, they were cheating and filming practices on other teams and all that, but what's the worst that's going to happen? Maybe you'll win an extra game or two or something like that,
Right,
but this can clearly totally take someone out for a year or possibly hurt them the rest of their life.
Yeah, the rest of their career, at least. Some of these things are career-ending things. And they talk about, I forget the exact term, but there's a term for when a player gets hit high and gets hit low within the same play, because you're more or less taking out a person's upper section and their lower section, sometimes in opposite directions, and they're known as, like, the most dangerous hits in NFL football. I mean, if a player took 2 or 3 of those at high rates of speed, I mean, who's to say that they wouldn't be scrambled forever?
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about, too. I can't remember the exact term, but yeah. Brutal.
It sounds awful.
It does. But it goes back to the argument, if they weren't doing dirty things, if they were rewarding for good things, then bounties, I think, would be okay.
I agree.
All right.
Well, as I said before, technically they do have bounties for good things, incentives on their contracts. There you go.
Yeah, and maybe those need to be made more clear, and you start that. But it is hard, like I said, if you're a high school or, right here local team and you're playing and your coach is like, hey, if we get these last 2 points, we're all going out to ice cream. I mean, I understand why you would have a throw it in there kind of a thing. Yes, you should have the incentives kind of laid out, but I could see why at the last minute you'd throw it in and be like, look, let's just get this done.
Wouldn't it be funny if some of those bounties were for ice cream? Like, you know what? If you take out...
I would be down.
Take out Peyton Manning, we're going to Baskin-Robbins. I'm just saying.
Hey.
It's
could be a good tab.
I guess. And Tyler, your newest article is out this week, YelmOnline.com. And what'd you write about?
About the whole Jeremy Linn racial stereotypes.
Oh, yes, that's right.
Linsanity.
Linsanity reigns in the garden. Yes. Well, that'll be interesting. Now, you're kind of all...
I saw that it was the most popular on the YelmOnline.com website.
It was, and actually it was a top trending topic on YouTube, or not YouTube, but Yahoo all weekend long. Jeremy Linn, top 5. And so, I mean, it's an interesting story. The guy came out of nowhere. He scored all these points to become the biggest star for the New York Knicks. Do you think he's going to stick around in that starting lineup, though, or do you think this is a fad?
Well, I thought I heard that he was coming off the bench the past couple games. Is that true, or did I hear wrong?
Ooh, well, I'm not sure. He's had less production the last couple games. I didn't hear about the bench, but...
maybe I'm off, but if that is right, I wouldn't be surprised if he can come off the bench and still be productive. And they got Carmelo Anthony back now, so.
This is true. And I mean, when you break it down, does Jeremy Linn really fit within that lineup? Because there's a lot of all-stars there. There's Amari Stoudemire, Carmelo Anthony. That's an interesting situation going on.
Time will tell.
Yes, time will tell. And check out Tyler's articles this week about Linsanity, YelmOnline.com. And your articles come out every Friday around 5 o'clock, so you have to check that out. And you were saying, well, before that, what I was getting to is all your stuff is online, right? YelmOnline.com?
Yep.
All right, well, you have to check that out, and we'll talk to you real soon. Thanks for your thoughts on this, because it just went to prove that I won the argument.
Yeah, right.
Halfway.
Winning.
I think I won. Anyway, check out Tyler Huey online, YelmOnline.com, and more chat coming your way tomorrow, 5:45 on KGY. And another reminder, this whole 5 o'clock thing, live online, KGYradio.com. Talk to you soon, Tyler. Have a great night.
Hey, Brad, you owe me $30. Bye.
Wow. All right, KGY News time, just about 6 o'clock.